Hey everybody, it's Jason with Parallel Reality coming back with you today with the button. What the hell was I saying? The hot button issue of the day here, which is of course Texas having the right to defend itself. So I got a good old double article video for you today. We're going to start with the Federalist article here, and it's going to kind of feed in directly into the article from Red State that we'll go over after this. So the Federalist article is dated January 25th, and it says Governor Abbott is right. Texas has the right to defend itself and secure its border. And this is, as I'm recording this, a couple of days after uh, Governor Abbott put out the letter saying basically, we have a right to do this. And then Biden came out and said, well, we're going to go ahead and take over. You have like, was it 24 hours to tell us that you're basically going to stop doing that? And Abbott gave him the finger. So that's good. So let's go ahead and see what is happening here. So states have the fundamental right of self-defense that transcends the authority of the president and the Supreme Court. Into the article. It says the constitutional crisis that's been building at the southern border reached a sharp point on Wednesday when Texas Governor Greg Abbott asserted the state's right to defend itself against invasion, arguing the Biden administration has broken the compact between the United States and the states. It's not an overstatement to say that this is the worst constitutional crisis since the Civil War, and that we're in uncharted waters now. I cannot talk this morning, and I don't know why. But anyway, let's just keep going. Because there have been times in our history when a state has defied the enforcement of federal laws, but we've never faced a situation where the federal government has refused to enforce its laws and even violated them. Yeah, I mean, I think that's the problem. Is not just that they're not enforcing it, is that they're actively just not doing anything about it at all. Like, in fact, I'd say they're facilitating the illegal thing. So it's mind numbing to me how they can just kind of go, all right, that's fine, and just get away with it. Like, we're just not going to do anything about this problem. And then people raise that it's a problem, and you have our dumbass press secretary up there like, oh, it's been a problem for years. And it's like, yeah, all the years that you guys have been in office, like everything seemed to be okay under Trump. And then Biden got rid of the law, and it was like, oh, well, it's been bad for years. Yeah, it's your fault, guys. Go look in the mirror. Let's just keep going with the article because I'm rambling. So, because the border crisis involves the question of security, Abbott's assertion of state authority cuts right to the heart of the question at hand, which is one of the first principles. Does a polity have the right to defend itself, to preserve its existence in the face of invasion? And the answer, of course, is yes, and I would wholeheartedly agree with that. As the preservation of the polity must come before process arguments about whose job it is to enforce federal immigration laws. The state of Texas, in this case, has an authority that transcends that of the President Biden and the Supreme Court. That's precisely why the U.S. Constitution includes a clause explicitly recognizing a state's right to act in self-defense when faced with invasion. So this shouldn't have come to this, but Biden has not only refused to enforce federal immigration laws, his administration has been blatantly violating them for 3 years, triggering the worst illegal immigration crisis in U.S. history. Texas has borne the brunt of Biden's dereliction of duty, and Abbott has at last decided to do something about it. Yeah, why this took 3 years, though, I mean, it's certainly, I think, a valid argument that people can make, because I don't know why it took 3 years to do this. Like, shouldn't this have, like, this was a problem. We knew it was coming 3 years ago. Why are we just now getting to it? But something's being done, so I guess we can say good. So specifically, he has ordered the Texas National Guard and other Texas law enforcement agencies under his charge to take control of certain parts of the border, erect barriers, and apprehend those who attempt to enter the state illegally. This week, following the Supreme Court's decision to side with the Biden administration and vacate an injunction that prohibited the feds from cutting razor wire Texas had placed across a stretch of border, Abbott went a step further. He declared that by failing to fulfill his constitutional duties to protect states from invasion, Biden had triggered Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3 of the U.S. Constitution, which stipulates that states are not allowed to enter into any agreement or compact with another state or with a foreign power or engage in war unless actually invaded. And here is a copy of the letter from the governor himself. We'll skip over that. It says, with tens of thousands of illegal immigrants crossing into Texas every day, there is no question that Texas has been actually invaded and has the inherent authority, by virtue of its sovereignty as a state, to defend itself in the face of federal inaction. That authority is the supreme law of the land and supersedes any federal statutes to the contrary, wrote Abbott, invoking James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, and the other founders who foresaw that states should not be left to the mercy of a lawless president who does nothing to stop external threats like cartels smuggling millions of illegal immigrants across the border. Yeah, and I mean, it's not just that. It's the fact that, like, I would even go as far as saying, like, every single one of these people that comes across that's illegal that ends up hurting somebody here, whether it's, killing or certain other things that you can't say on YouTube, that mostly men do to women. You catch my drift. Like, that's on this administration. I mean, they're the ones, like, these things wouldn't have happened had, the government just done its job and stopped this from happening. Like, the blood is on your hands, folks, and understand something. They don't care. It's as simple as that. They do not care. Okay, I mean, they don't care about your Americans and their lives. Okay, they don't care about their own citizens. They care more about basically people that are not a part of their family than they do about their actual family. So go with that. The upshot is that Texas troops will not stand down. They will not return control of Shelby Park, a municipal park in Eagle Pass that's been a hotbed of illegal crossings, to the federal border patrol as the Biden administration demands. And I'm pretty sure I saw something just yesterday from when I'm recording this. By the way, it is the morning of the 27th when I'm recording this, so this article is just from 2 days ago. But I think it was yesterday that I saw that the Border Patrol basically said we stand with Texas. So they basically gave the Biden administration a big middle finger as well. And good, that's the right answer there. It says, nor will Texas allow federal agents to cut or remove the razor wire and other barriers that it has placed along the north banks of the Rio Grande as deterrents to would-be illegal immigrants. Says, what comes next? Will Biden make good on his habitual boast that you can't fight the government because the U.S. military has tanks and warplanes? Will he send federal troops to wrest control of the border from Texas by force? Yeah, that's going to be a problem. So if he does that, but I think that would look incredibly dumb of him to actually do. Like, you're gonna actually fight to continue doing the illegal thing. Like, what? So it's like Biden's in the wrong no matter what he does here. And if he doesn't do anything, then he just looks like what he is, which is a weak president. Um, so let's keep going. It says, we did that. And it says, that's what some congressional Democrats are quite recklessly urging him to do. And again, that's to send federal troops in. It says, gleeful at the prospect of the crisis coming to blows. It says, notice the identical language in these tweets from Reps Joaquin Castro and Greg Casar, suggesting a coordinated effort. And that's from the account and Wokeness, which I highly recommend you follow if you have an X account. But Castro and Greg Casar are both leftists. I don't know much about this Greg Casar guy. I know he's a Texas rep. I know Castro is him and his twin brother. They're both idiots. I'm talking about the Castro twins. They're legitimately stupid people. So anyway, it says, I'm doubtful that Biden will go that far, though, partly because no one really disputes that his administration has abandoned its duty to secure the border and enforce federal immigration laws. The country has been flooded with as many as 10 million illegal immigrants since Biden took office and immediately went about dismantling the policies President Trump had in place to keep illegal immigration in check. Yeah, he did that, like, I think it was on day one, and it made the news as well. So it's not like this isn't an unknown thing. Whatever happens at the border in the near term, there's a larger question looming over all this, and that's the question of legitimacy. As my colleague, not me, but the writer of the article, Mark Hemingway, noted in the wake of its announcement, says we have arrived at a far bigger legitimacy crisis than anything that happened under Trump, January 6th included, and it's 100% Biden's fault. Even Dem governors and politicians are outspoken about the insanity of his border policy, and yet he persists. Because when the chief executive of the United States, who has sworn to uphold the Constitution and faithfully execute the laws, steadfastly refuses to do either, in what sense does such an administration, or should we say regime, have real legitimacy? Yeah, it's basically become like a regime, and that's meant like as a pejorative more than anything. It says defending borders from invasion is, of course, one of the fundamental reasons governments exist. If a government does not do that, it would seem it has forfeited its legitimacy. And recall that the Declaration of Independence is mostly a litany of grievances leveled at the British Crown and Parliament that justify revolution. Among them is the charge that King George III, I guess Joe Biden is playing King George III here, had abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. Well, that sounds pretty direct to me. Says the same could not be said of President Biden, who has abdicated government, declared border states outside of federal protection, and allowed foreign invasion to proceed for years while he's done nothing to stop it. Biden, not Abbott, has brought us to the brink. The question now is whether he and his handlers will plunge us over it. And so you're probably going, okay, so even if you're reading or listening to this, reading this, I'm reading it. Even if you're listening to this and going, well, what's so bad? Like, this can't be that bad. Like, only it's the nice people that are coming in. We should allow them in. Well, that's when we come to the Red State article here from yesterday, the 26th, that says former FBI top brass warned congressional leaders of imminent terror threat due to border crisis. And this is something that's been in the news for months. I mean, I think the last time the FBI Director Christopher Wray testified before Congress, he said the same exact thing. That, there's an imminent terror threat. So this is why closing the border is probably a good thing. And I'm not saying forever and not like if you're doing the immigration thing legally and going through the process, like I have zero issue with that whatsoever. But when the border is wide open, who knows what we have in this country right now? These people that want to kill us just because we're American. Like that's it. That's literally it. They don't hate you because for anything other than that. Okay. So let's go into this Red State article. And this is probably going to be somewhat alarming. It says, it says right there, an alarming letter dated January 17th, 2024, was drafted by 10 former FBI executives that warned of an imminent but preventable, there's a key word there, terrorist threat to the United States perpetrated by hostile individuals who entered the country illegally through the southern border. The letter, which was sent to Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, House Speaker Mike Johnson, and the chairs of both the House and Senate committees for Intelligence and Homeland Security, warns that the policies of President Joe Biden have enabled a soft invasion of military-aged men from several hostile nations with terror-linked groups. And you say that, and I don't know if this article is going right because I actually have not read the Red State article. I did read the Federalist article before I just read it to you now on this video. But there was a video just recently that I think on that End Wokeness account that I just mentioned has it. I could be wrong, but you can find this. That there's some guy that they interviewed at the border that just said, like, you will know who I am soon enough. And then they found out who this guy was, and he's supposedly some Azerbaijani Muslim terrorist that had just gotten out of prison that he was in for 12 years, for bad things. So that's the kind of people that just get to walk right across our border. And you can look at any of these videos, like where are all the women and kids? I mean, yeah, you see them in some, but a lot of these are just military aged men, as it says, from several hostile nations. So yeah, that's fun. So the letter said that they sent that I mentioned before in that previous paragraph said the threat we call out today is new and unfamiliar. In its modern history, the U.S. has never suffered an invasion of the homeland, and yet one is unfolding now. Military aged men from across the globe, many in countries or regions not friendly to the United States, are landing in waves on our soil by the thousands, not by splashing ashore from a ship or parachuting from a plane, but rather by foot across a border that has been accurately advertised around the world as largely unprotected with ready access granted. So since Biden took office and initiated his border and immigration policies, the number of illegal immigrants entering the country has skyrocketed. As of this writing, an estimated total of 8,542,110 people have entered illegally, and an estimated 1.7 million people have entered illegally and have never been apprehended or processed. So they're just out there somewhere. So it says thus over 10 million people have entered the country through the southern border. Wonderful. Great job there, Joe Biden. And it says the letter aptly points out that the demographic of illegal aliens has also changed from just a few years ago. According to the Customs and Border Protection Agency, in the fiscal years 21, 22, and 23, the overwhelming majority of illegal aliens entering the country were single adults. For example, in 2022, the number of single adults who entered was over 1.99 million, compared with over 614,000 of what the CBP refers to as family unit aliens. So then there's an embedded tweet here from Senator Ron Johnson. It says this sobering letter from former FBI, Homeland Security, and other law enforcement officials describes the chilling reality of why Joe Biden's open border is a clear and present danger to America. We're not going to click on that. Just keep going. It says in the letter, and my mouse is not working there. There we go. It says in the letter, the signatories all agree that the nation is in a very precarious position in terms of national security and the ability to use the tools and terrain that have successfully been used in the past to curb this threat, noting that none of these tools, laws, terrain, or military assets have been or are being used currently. As in light of such a daunting, unprecedented penetration by uninvited foreign actors, it is reasonable to assert that the country possesses dramatically diminished national security at this time. The nation's military and laws and other natural protective barriers that have provided traditional security in the past have been thoroughly circumvented over the past 3 years, the former FBI directors wrote. Again, still can't talk, but I'm getting better as I'm going on. Says the amount of single military-aged males that have entered the country has also come from other regions of the world not normally seen by the Border Patrol. More men are coming from regions and countries that are either hostile to the United States or have active terrorist groups operating within their countries. Further noting that since 2020, at least 2,000 people who are either known terrorist suspects or are on the terrorist watch list have been apprehended, and the consensus is that number is most likely from higher. Well, I mean, considering it says that, what was it up here? that 1.7 people of a million people have entered illegally and have never been apprehended or processed, I'd say that's probably a vast understatement, which is extremely scary. Come on, mouse. My mouse. I just replaced the battery in it, so I'm going to have to use the keyboard because the mouse doesn't want to work, the little scroller button. Says the sheer number of people that have entered this country illegally, especially the ones that are coming from hostile shores, should be concerning everyone. This is not the first warning that the Biden administration has gotten regarding elevated terrorism threats. And like I said, Christopher Wray, the FBI director, has testified in front of Congress multiple times about this. So yeah, this is not a new thing. It says in October 2023, intelligence alerts were sent to law enforcement agencies in the southern border area of California, warning of the possibility of pro Hamas or pro Hezbollah terrorists entering the country via the open border. Yeah, again, that's concerning. And see what they did on October 7th in Israel. Imagine that happening here. Are you going to be okay with that? You still going to, you idiots out there that support them, still going to do that? So let's keep going. It says the sheer number of illegal aliens should concern everyone. To put them into perspective, if we take the number of single adults entering the U.S. in 2023 through the southern border and narrow down their country of origin, over 369,000 entered illegally. They came from China, Russia, Turkey, the Philippines, Ukraine, Romania, and a few others. That number accurately describes the number of people it would take to form a field army or two of them. A field army is a formation of troops of approximately 100,000 and 200,000 troops. Nobody knows how many out of that number, or the total number of 2023 single adults that entered the country, are bad actors. But even if the number was as small as the number of known terrorists caught above, which was just over 2,000, consider the danger presented. Says 2,000 people make up two full strength battalions or one light regiment. We could potentially have two full battalions of foreign fighters in our country right now. And these fighters have, at the very least, moderate training in asymmetric warfare, which, when spread out throughout the country, can cause an extremely significant amount of damage. Think of what 19 people were able to accomplish on September 11th, or what over 1,000 organized fighters did to Israel on October 7th. Organized or not, 2,000 enemy combatants can wreak havoc on us. As the 10 former executive FBI intelligence and counterterrorism officials are all saying the same thing. The time to act is long since past, but if we change course now and start proactively and aggressively protecting our southern border, we may be able to stem the flow. If not, well, you know what may happen. So very scary, but yeah, I mean, so what do you guys think about this? I mean, what do you think about the whole, situation here with the Texas border? Do you think Texas has a right to protect itself? I certainly do. I stand with Texas for sure. Not that it matters. But what do you think about the, possible terrorist threats coming in as well because of Joe Biden's open borders? Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.